But then there's Tim Brando, Fox Sports, joins us and has been a guest of ours many times, and we damn sure do appreciate his time and friendship as well. Tim, the NCAA all of a sudden is worried about the NIL. It's out of control. They're going to fix it.
It's laughable. All of it. I mean, it's just absolutely laughable. So a group of presidents, probably those that agreed on giving Mark Emmert another 4 years at $3 million per, even when Mark thought, you know what, this isn't going well. At least Mark was smart enough to know that he needed to get the hell out of there. Even though he didn't do anything while he was there, he was smart enough to get the hell out. I mean, you don't put the genie back in the bottle. I'm sorry. It just, how are you going to enforce this? How are you going to get any clarity? It's pretty clear. Jack Swarbrick has already said, Gene Smith, his contemporary and colleague at Ohio State, has already said what their thoughts and plans are. I mean, other than governing a very profitable NCAA men's basketball tournament, the NCAA is powerless. And, you know, I'll have to look at some specifics. I haven't, to be perfectly honest with you, looked at all of them. But the headline that I read this morning before I went out to play golf, and I just got back home from the golf course, was just insanity to me. You know, and at best it's 15 years late. At best, it's 15 years late. And how are you going to enforce it? Is this your way of trying to keep your infractions people in place so that they don't lose jobs because they really can't? All the things that they were investigating now are illegal. I mean, what is it? Sounds like a play to keep some people's jobs within the structure of the NCAA to me. I mean, that's because I don't know how you're going to enforce any of this. You know, this notion that you're going to be able to go in and suddenly stop the collectibles that are already in place, or you're going to try to prohibit some from doing it after it's already been done other places. I mean, I don't know how you figure that. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I just don't. It is absolutely laughable that the NCAA would try to make us believe that they somehow have gathered any power in Division I college football.
Tim, I've been thinking about it a lot. I mean, and we'll probably given more thought to it than I probably should, and should have gone about living my life. But
everybody has, yeah.
But
get in line.
If you boil it down to what, you know, quote unquote crime would be committed that they could investigate, the only way that you could prove it, or the only thing that's really illegal, would be Booster X calling Recruit Y at a different school and saying, why don't you get in the transfer portal? But if I don't have subpoena power, I can't prove that phone call ever happened.
Right.
All I can say is, like, this was a fortuitous bounce for the player that he got in the transfer portal, and he now is, promoting so-and-so for the University of Miami or USC or whoever. Yeah. So I don't know what they think they're really going to do.
Right. I mean, in my mind, particularly given what we've seen take place with, that FBI investigation on college basketball, you saw what happened. Auburn basically skated. Kansas basically skated. I mean, other than Will Wade, who went well and beyond the pale of dignity, got canned, and they had him on wiretaps. So, I just don't know from an infractions and enforcement standpoint right now, at any level, even with the FBI's help, that the NCAA can really get much of anything done. And name, image, and likeness has been now in play, and the schools have gotten basically their firms. They've replaced their compliance people with NIL people, and so because compliance is like, what's the deal? I mean, yeah, you might want to keep a compliance person just for checks and balances, But you really need to have an NIL firm that's helping you at least keep up with what's going on with your players, with name, image, and likeness. So, I just think it's way too late, and it gives more fodder for people in your business and obviously my business to discuss during the silly season. But I don't think that there'll ever be any teeth to it from the NCAA's perspective as it relates to putting together any kind of regulations that would hold, that would not block, antitrust. And anyone that wanted to bring a case against the NCAA, if they tried to enforce any infractions on this particular issue, their record in court would remain intact. O for Tarkanian, O for everything. That's just about the way they wind up every time they go to court.
We could start every show, and it seems like we almost do with a new NIL deal or a story or this and that. You're right, it does add fodder to what otherwise may not be there, and then the transfer portal on top of that as well. So what was your reaction? I don't think we've had you on since the K-State Nigel Pack signed an NIL deal with John Ruiz, who does his thing in Miami. And then a player on the Miami team wanted more money, and then actually Ruiz quoted, "I do not renegotiate deals." What was your reaction? Because that, to me, if there was not as if you needed any kind of red flags, but was that one of the ultimate red flags right there that went?
Oh and the basketball player, the Isaiah Wong, that's another one that's out of control. There are isolated cases here where it's purely pay for play. And look, a lot of the guys of the veteran players, for instance, the football story, the one centered around Addison, the wide receiver from Pitt that won the Biletnikoff. Look, this is a young man that's already played he's what is it, 3 years or 4 years? I think it's 3. Maybe I'm not sure. He's put in his years. He's only got 1 year to hit on NIL. So, yeah, he wants to go where he thinks he can get the best possible deal. That's what the upperclassmen are attempting to do. If you're an incoming freshman, then I don't think you're trying to hit the Brinks armored truck just yet. You can do it more in time. Listen, I believe all of this, and the doomsayers are they're just so out of control, because all they're hearing is what coaches are having to say. The only story that we get, whether it's a great writer from The Athletic or a great writer from Yahoo, name that great writer. What are we getting? We're getting coach speak. Okay, we're not hearing from the players. We're not getting that side of the story ever. So we're getting nothing but doom and gloom because, this coach or that coach who was not prepared for this, and I don't think any of them were, because college athletics as a whole wasn't, are saying, it's unsustainable, it's the wild, wild west, it's this, it's that. Hey, guys, you're making $7, $8, $9, $10 million. Some of you make $4, $5, $6, $7 million. Earn it, okay? It's going to be a little harder now. All that money coming from your boosters is not going to go to your Niagara Falls, Nick Saban, or your Chuck E. Cheese, Dabo Sweeney, inside your football facilities. It's going to go to players now. So you got to make sure that you handle this and govern it in a way a leader should. And that's changing the landscape for a lot of these guys. And look, I understand it's hard. I understand it's tough. But you got to adapt. And just about most of the great coaches I know of always adapted. But this is what the writers are writing about, what the pundits are talking about, and we're only really getting one side of the story because none of the players really want to discuss what's going on. Why would they? Why should they? It's their business. You strike an NIL deal, it's a good one for you. Somebody wants to write about it, fine. But I don't think that this is going to be the end all of college football as we know it, and that's what's going on that I find so absurd.
Tim, do you Do you think that the powers that be at the NCAA, especially the ones that had an idea of what college athletics should be in their mind and tried to kind of wedge through things that are kind of in conflict with being an American about the rights that we all have, for all this time about what a student athlete was, had they just let Chris Webber make money off his jersey in 1992, or guys sign autographs, that maybe all this cut him in for the video game, that maybe none of this would have happened?
Well, yeah. I mean, think about that circus surrounding Johnny Manziel back in, what was it, 2013? I think that's right. 2012, 13.
Yeah, 12, yeah.
Yeah, 12. I mean, yeah. I mean, think about that. What a waste of time all of that was. Okay. And what was the other story a couple of years before that? With the Auburn quarterback. And
Cam Newton.
And that whole with Cam and the bag man. Remember they had the bag man story, and the whole Mississippi State John Bond thing was going on. Remember all that? I mean, these are all byproducts. You look back on that, and so much was made of it at the time, and now this all would fall under the why should we care category. But we did, and it clogged up a lot of the airspace, both in the off season and during the season, especially the Cam Newton story when that thing broke. In the middle of the 2010 football season, it's the NCAA. How could they have just sat there knowing what was going on with these two major cases, and not have done anything? Not moved on it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Their legal people just got absolutely boat raced by what was taking place. And for the Supreme Court to rule as they did when they did, 9-0, okay? I mean, a slam dunk 9-0. And here they are now trying to, as I said earlier, put the genie back in the bottle. Good luck with that. I just think there's a few of those holier than thous that fall into that strong academician category that are suddenly so upset that this is happening. They're hearing all that they're hearing from the media, and they're now trying to act like they actually have power when everybody knows that they don't.
What'd you shoot today, by the way, Tim?
I rallied for an 82, 10 over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a birdie on one on the front, but I had a couple of dubs coming in. Got a little tired. It got hot out there today.
Oh yeah, it's steamy.
It was the warmest today in the last 5 or 6 holes that I've played in all spring. So, but I rallied, made a nice par save on 17 and a par on 18. I closed it out with I shot 42-40, so it was a good day.
Well, it's better than a 40-42 because he felt a little bit different. When I had a back nine the other day, I shot 37-43. Imagine if it would have been the other way around. It just frustrated me. Yeah, it's different.
That's golf.
Yep. So
in
the end, do you feel like we've seen expansion? We know what eventually the Texas and Oklahoma, whatever it's going to be. The American Conference is working with Cincinnati, UCF, and also Houston to allow them to what appears to be joined next summer with Brigham Young ahead of schedule. There's still work to be done there. What do you think in the end? Where will we be? And TV contracts have a lot to do with this. Where will college football's Power 5 be, in your opinion, in, let's say, 10 years?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it's going to change by the time the new TV deals are done. Okay, so after the Big 12 gets its commissioner, and by the way, who's that going to be? You guys enlighten me. I've got some ideas, but there doesn't seem to be a hot candidate for it right now. I will tell you, I think being Big 12 commissioner is a much better job than replacing Mark Emmert at his job. Okay, that's the job you'd really want.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 deals, the Big 10 is basically done. Okay, Fox is going to be the primary carrier. We know that. That's already been reported. Whoever they pick as the secondary carrier on air, at least there have been some published reports indicating that Fox is helping the Big Ten with that in sort of a consulting fashion. I don't know that to be true, but that's what's being reported by those that keep up with such things, the Sports Business Journal people, John Orand and those guys that are out there covering sports media. But whoever gets the second end of it, whether it's CBS or NBC or even ESPN, which I think, again, could be a bit of a reach because they've got all of the SEC. And for them to get a piece of the Big Ten with both CBS and NBC interested, that's going to be fun to watch to see how that whole thing plays out, given the history between the Big 12 and ESPN, most recent history at least. So we'll see. But the Pac-12 deal also comes after that, and with what George Kliavkoff had to say about at the big Pac-12 meetings last week about the digital, the Amazons and the Apples and all that getting into the mix. Whatever it takes to get the Big 12 and the Pac-12 the money that they desperately need to be at least in the same ballpark with the SEC and the Big Ten is going to, in my mind, that's going to dictate, the direction that we go as it relates to maintaining conference affiliations and not seeing, tremendous realignment moves between now and 10 years from now. Your question was about 10 years from now. I think the notion that the Big 12 was done, and you remember this time last year, that was the notion. Oh, my God,
yep.
Big 12's done. Some of those teams may even fold into the AAC. You remember hearing all that. Obviously, that didn't happen. So we got to be mindful of that. My personal opinion is that we will have 5 power conferences. We may see expansion to more teams coming into the Power 5. Possibly Mike Oresco's P6 could come into play because I think he's done a really nice job with the AAC. Even the teams that are replacing those that he's losing, I think, have some upside. But as it relates to this, it's just going to be 45 teams and that's it. And they're just going to play round robins with each other. And the group of 5 is not going to be a part of this in the mid 230s, which is what Jack Swarbrick indicated. I don't see that. I think the people I talk to that are in positions of power in college football, they want to make as much money for their schools as they possibly can. And the SEC's teams are making like 60, 70 million. And there's talk that the Big Ten deal, once it's all done and they've got the secondary carrier to go along with Fox, and then, maybe they do some digital deals. Maybe those schools could get as high as 90 to 100 million per school. Listen, how much is too much? I don't know. I just know this. Live sports television is still worth a lot of money, whether they're getting it from digital or they're getting it from mainline over-the-air networks. If the Big 12 and the Pac-12 can stay on footing at 40 to 45 million per school in TV, then I think they'll be able to exist and still be a factor in big-time college football. The people that I talk to want to make sure that the group of 5 schools, those that aren't getting the same kind of revenue in television rights, are protected because they need them to fill out their schedules. They really want to be able to play some of those games non-conference, maybe not as many, but some of them. And I think protecting the schools that are in the AAC, the Mountain West, the MAC, and so on, the Sun Belt, they need to be protected. And I really hope that the leaders that are the power brokers, truly the 5 conference commissioners of the power leagues, do what's best, not just for their individual conferences, but for all of Division I college football. And look, the money's there. They should be happy. It's all about governance and it's all about leadership. And the right leadership with quality governance, college football will be just fine in 5 years and 10 years and forever. The notion that it's going the way of the NFL but some of the things that the NFL did, fellas, they need to do. They need to have more networks involved in their postseason than just one. I think they'll do that. I think you'll see multiple networks with the college football playoff when that deal is done after the 2025 season.
You know, Tim, one of the things and we had some pretty good insight from, fortunately, from building relationship over the years. The one thing that Bowlesby and the Big 12 always felt like it helped them once they kind of stopped the tsunami with Texas and OU was the live programming. You brought it up, the live programming. They got to fill time. Networks have time. They got to fill those spots. And that's one of the things that I think they're going to try to, hopefully they can, is take advantage of exactly what I was told and also what you just mentioned as well.
Yeah, well, by example, people have been discussing a little bit the last few weeks about the USFL. And some people have said to me, oh, my God, there's nobody in the stands. And I'm like, well, it really doesn't matter whether people are in the stands or not. They're like, well, what do you mean? Well, you're not paying rights. You know, Fox isn't paying rights for the USFL. They own it. It's theirs. And the teams, I mean, they're basically putting in what they're putting in, $150 million over a 3-year period. They're getting help from the city of Birmingham, okay, in terms of facilities and whatnot. The business model is what it is. And then they got a partner, a television partner in NBC to join them. And, yeah, it's great if there's 10,000, 15, 20,000 people at the games. But if they're not paying rights and they're putting on football games in the spring that are getting numbers that rival or sometimes beat the NHL playoffs, the NBA, and whatever the other programming might be, golf and Major League Baseball, and they're not paying any rights for it, check out what the rights are worth, you know, to those other professional sports leagues right now that those networks are doling out. So if they get a 1.2 rating, that's over 1 million people watching. That might be more than the Capitals and the Bruins got in a playoff game. Well, but you're not paying any rights for it. You know, that's the nature of the beast. Having live sports television is a must in this day and time.
Anything else, Paul?
Nope.
Hey, Tim, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate you being a part of the show and also your opinion, feedback, insight, and loyalty to us. We appreciate it.
You got it, Smoak. All the best, Paul. Great talking to you, too.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, just shot an 80. What did he say? 82.
82.
42-40.